Here we go.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of Wales This Week. As the cost of living hits hard, our experts will be weighing up if there's any more we can do to save money. Isn't it? If I did know that. Well, we've had lots, haven't we, from people regarding their worries about their finances, and unfortunately it doesn't look like things will be improving anytime soon. Joining me to discuss the future really is economy expert Hugh Dixon. Welcome from Cardiff University, and our cost of living correspondent Carol Green remains with us to guide us through as well. So Hugh, thank you very much for coming in to speak to us. I hate to ask this question, but how bad are things going to get from an economy perspective?
Well, to focus on the cost of living, prior to the Ukraine, I think people were thinking that inflation would peak in April, around about 7% or 8%, and it would then come down gradually over the rest of the year. However, since the Ukraine crisis war has started, it's going to go on for quite a bit longer. So there'll be probably another energy price hike in September of a similar size to the one we've just had. Plus, of course, rising food prices, because Russia and Ukraine are both big sources of foods and fertiliser. So it's certainly going to last. It'll probably peak around about 9 or 10%, a little bit higher, and it'll go on into 2023. The end, it largely will be driven by when things calm down in Ukraine and we see peace in Ukraine, and that's the ultimate hope for things to get better. And as you know, that's nowhere in sight at the moment. But,
yeah, so there's all the things we have been talking about in terms of the pandemic, Carol, and Brexit, but really what's sort of tipped things over the edge with the cost of living crisis is, as Hugh's been explaining, what's been happening in Ukraine, and it will be when the energy price cap kicks in this month, and then possibly again in the autumn, that people are really going to feel it.
Absolutely. At the moment, thankfully, we'll be coming into some warmer weather, so that might give us a little bit of respite. But as you say, the autumn, we are going to face higher costs, so our household bills. But if we also look at businesses, they're seeing their costs rise. They've had wage rises, they're paying more national insurance, they're having to pay more for their energy, and if they're a restaurant, they're paying more for their food. Some of those prices will be passed on to us, and as Hugh said, inflation isn't going to come down. But if we think of it, we're on a burning platform, as someone described it recently. The pandemic, now Ukraine. But what can come out of that? It's a shock to the economy. And out of every shock can come innovation. So it can quicken our pace of change. It can move us quicker to more locally supplied energy, closer to home, and greener solutions ultimately.
And Mr. Dixon, is that where the hope lies in all of this, that there is some positives that can come out of it in terms of that innovation and driving things on that maybe would have taken a long time otherwise?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there are many examples of that, but just moving to electric vehicles, for example, and things like that. So, crisis is the mother of invention, and I think we will learn to live with it. But also, I think, inflation will eventually come down. It might be 18 months from now, but life will return to normal in that sense, and it's not going to. Yes. I don't think we'll have a repeat of the 70s.
Well, that was my next question I was going to ask you. Can we compare it to the 70s? Because we've heard people doing that a lot, and how did things play out then, and can we compare it to how it ended then?
Well, I think it depends very much on what the government does about it. I mean, in the 70s, it was a relatively new experience of inflation, and the government didn't know what to do. I think the government and the Bank of England have got a better idea what to do now, and so I don't think it's going to have a runaway inflation that's going to last for years. It will subside. I wouldn't want to use the word transitory. That got some people into trouble, and Jerome Powell and so on. But it won't be permanent, put it that way. So I think it might last longer than we thought, but things will get better, I think.
Well, and that hope will mean a lot to a lot of people.
Hope, certainly, but I think we've got to add in a word of caution in that, we're all going to be tightening our belts. We might not eat out as much. We might not get our hair cut quite so often. All those practical things where we can make a difference with our discretionary spend. And here's a stat. It's for the whole of UK, not for Wales, but £12 billion is predicted to be cut off our discretionary spend, that spend we get a choice over. So even though we might not be in a recession, it might for a little while feel like we're very much in tough times.
And the statistic I was reading yesterday was that 500,000 people in Wales are going to struggle to be able to pay their bills in the next 6 months. So as you say, a word of caution, but a glimmer of hope as well that we can hopefully hold out for. Thank you very much for being with me to discuss this a little bit further this evening, Carol, and to Hugh. Well, it isn't just us humans who are going to be affected by the rising cost of living.